All right. Thank you guys again. Take two. It is Tuesday evening. It is one more day till the end of July. I'm sorry, June. We're going into July. And then we're halfway through the year. Oh my goodness. Anyways, thank you guys for jumping on tonight. I posted a flyer. I have my guest Billy coming on tonight. Um, and like I was saying earlier, I've been watching his posts as I do everybody on my page, and I get inspiration from things that we post. And sometimes people stick out to me and says that is a journey that we can all learn something from. So I reached out to him and asked him to come on the show with us and share a little bit about his journey. He does have some offers that he offers to the community, to the world, and he's gonna come on here and talk about it. All right, I see that you're there. We're gonna try. There you go. All right, so you're popping up now, Billy, which is great. Yes, okay. All right, guys, so get ready. We're gonna have a conversation with my friend Billy and learn a little bit about his journey, what works for him, how he is helping others around him. If you are looking for that type of help, how you can reach out to him. So let's do the drum roll. Yay!
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great. Hold on, let me shut this up. Okay, I have my little drum roll and it's a whole little contraption I have going. How are you
I'm good. How
doing?
are you?
Good. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for asking me to come on.
Yeah, I know. It's like I was saying earlier, like I have a lot of people on my page that we all kind of in common have a lot of what we post, inspiring other people, or things that you're going through yourself and that you're sharing, and we're learning from each other. And I had seen you for a while. Actually, what made me, I think, caught my eye was there's a post going around by someone famous, I think, and it's saying like post how old you are right
Yeah.
now, but it's like and I was like, I seen your picture and I was like, oh my god, let me ask him and see if he'll come on. And then I went on your page and seen that you do offer help to people in your community and stuff like that, and you have a story which we would love to talk about. So first, go ahead and introduce yourself and just get a little bit into who you are, what you're doing.
So my name is Billy. I live in Sudbury, Ontario, Canada. So we're still currently not fully opened here. So I get my haircut on Friday. They finally opened that up. So I'm excited about that. So I'm a life coach, fitness coach, hypnotist, NLP practitioner.
Oh, you're a hypnotist too.
Yes, and I have many qualifications that I've achieved and received through the last 20 some years. Um, and I like I said before, I take my struggles in my life and I use them to help other people work through their struggles, and like a survival guide for their lives, because with everything I've gone through, and I've been able to help a lot of people through the years. Kind of, it's I'm very empathetic. I can put myself in people's shoes to kind of understand where they're coming from. So
Yeah.
it's always been something that I've been good at, because I don't judge people for what they're going through, or even, like, I have a psychology degree too, and even prior to that, I've always been interested in psychology and how the mind works, and I've always understood why people do what they do. Not not saying that what they do is okay, but I can understand why they act the way they do, why they do what they do, and
Yes.
whatnot. But that being said, I also believe that, like, you have no say and no input in how you're raised as a child, but it's your responsibility as an adult to heal what hurt you as a child, or grow from that, right, and work through that. It doesn't there's no excuse for you to be mean to somebody because of your past and of how you were raised or how you were treated, or it doesn't give you the right to treat other people that way because you were hurt when you were younger or in a bad relationship. And it's always learning, being aware of your triggers, and it's like it's a lifelong journey, because you know, life happens all the time, and things happen, and you're always kind of like, okay, you're in the middle of a situation, and you're about to get kind of angry, and then you're like, oh, that's a trigger. That's my ego, really. It's like, oh, that
Yeah,
hurt my
it's
feelings.
always being aware.
That hurt my feelings. I don't like my feelings being hurt, so I got to sit back and like, you know, and one thing that I did learn, even recently, is that no matter what, nobody is, and I don't know if you noticed some of the posts I recently put about um, people judging you and not, you know, without walking a mile in your shoes type thing.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
the people that know me the least happen to be the people that are closest to me, like family. They
yeah,
tend to know me the least, and I realized that in the last year, and most recently in the last couple weeks. It's interesting how uh, people still look at you as, you know, the old version of you, or the
yeah,
you going through, like, for an example, I know some people look at me as the single dad fighting, you know, for custody of my children, and fighting to see my kids for almost 6 years, and the trauma and the stress and the anxiety and the depression and all of that, and just it was just so debilitating, and I was like, so, like, it's so hard to explain unless you've gone through that, and the people that are in my life, none of them have ever gone through anything like that, but they're still trying to give me advice, you know.
yeah. I know how. A couple of things I want to jump in real quick and say. One, one of the things that I've realized, and before even doing these interviews, and then confirming it while doing these interviews, is that all of us, as any human being, I think I said this yesterday in one of my interviews, it doesn't matter where you're born or the class of people or environment that you're born into, there's usually always something that traumatizes you when you're a little kid. Even if that parent was doing the best that they could and provided everything that they didn't have and thought you should have, you usually find something that has traumatized you. And now growing up, we've developed that we've developed the experiences because of of the traumatized. He's gonna come back on. Just bear with us a second.
Sorry, I lost you for a sec there.
That's okay. That's okay. It happens. So what I was saying was that so we that traumatization is what we're usually now when we become aware. Our work is now to work through that, to either reprogram, retrain our minds to respond the way that we want to. Are you hearing me okay before I continue? I'm a little frozen. I haven't frozen here. If anybody else is watching and can tell me, it might be me who's frozen. Okay, let's see. I think if I do this, how about this? And then I go back on here and we try it again this way.
Oh,
All right. Did we work this time?
there.
That, there you go. Okay. All right. So it's happening. I know where I live right now too is storming, so it can have an effect. That's why I wasn't sure if it was me or not. Sometimes on our Wi-Fi over here. So anyway, so I was saying that a lot of times now our work is. Are you able to hear me good before we continue? Okay. Our work is now to work on unprogram or deprogramming the programs that we no longer want to create from, to live by, right? And so a lot of the times I've noticed too with the different people I'm talking to, whether it's someone who's focused on helping from the body aspect first, the mind aspect, or spirit, they all three end up connecting. So whichever one you choose first, it will trickle into the other ones, and you will end up healing in your mind, end up healing in your spirit, which recreates your whole atmosphere, you know, up here. Anyways, so that was one of the things I want to point out. The other thing is something that you just said about with family. My sisters and I have a group chat now so that we talk and we bring up a lot of things, you know, from in the past, how we view things. And one of the things we said was a lot of people from your past will look at you, don't know your experience, your journey, not only are they look on the outside, but inwards, we're also going on a journey, right? So people see us reacting to certain things, but they don't know the inner part of how we're thinking. Even right now, as we're talking, our back minds still have other thoughts going on too. So they don't know that about us, yet they judge us from what they knew. I've seen a lot of people saying, I don't care if you brought me up, you raised me, your aunts, my brothers, my sisters. You don't have, I would say you don't have the right, but it would not make sense to judge me on who you thought I was. And, we're always changing. We're always changing. But our families are here, I've learned in the last year or two, are here to help us to deal with people like that in the world. Because if you learn how to handle that there, you can handle anywhere you go.
Yeah.
So if you learn to master, that's what they say. If you really want to see if you've been enlightened, go spend a weekend or a week with your family. If you can sit there and be calm and just brush everything off your back, you're pretty close to enlightenment, because they're the ones who test you the most. Those are who you deal with when you go out into the public. Those are the type of people that you deal with.
Yeah.
So it makes sense for me. Yeah.
No, I agree.
And that's a journey.
Yeah. Very, very well said, because it's true. When you can allow the judgment of the people closest to you not affect you or not hurt you, that's hard. That like, I had a situation where somebody said some very hurtful things. Unfortunately, they had one too many drinks. I don't drink, and things were said, and it was just, I had to walk away, because none of it was true, first off, and secondly, that person doesn't remember anything they said. I do though.
Yeah.
That's the frustrating part, as well. You got to say all this stuff and then forget about it, but I still have to remember it.
Yeah.
Right. But when it comes to people in the real world, outside of family and outside of everything else, you get to be who you want to be.
Yeah.
You get to be.
Well, how do you handle that when your family does that now knowing what you know in the space of where you have grown? How would you handle that when you're around your family? Like you said, that instance of where they vomited all that on you, and now
This
you
was
are
just last Saturday. This is just 2 days
right.
ago.
So how are you dealing with it then?
Well, I took it as a sign, because I was thinking of doing some big decision making, and thinking about making a couple major moves, and I took this as the universe giving me a sign that I'm going in the wrong direction, so I needed to change directions. So in the past, my gut was never wrong, my intuition was never wrong, but I ignored it all the time. Now I'm like, as soon as I get that little feeling of should I do it, should I not do it, and if my gut gives me the answer, I listen to it now, versus where before it's like I'm an extreme optimist. I'm like, oh, I can do it, I can make it, I can change it, I can make it work. Meanwhile, my gut's like, it's not going to work, because it's more than just you doing it. There's more than just you involved, right? And if everybody's not on the same page as you, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So it's the same idea when I work with clients. I do screenings for clients, and before COVID, I did one-on-one client face-to-face. Now I'm trying to transition online and do my stuff online and build a program to offer online. And the screening process is basically, I listen to their story. I get them to tell me their story. I listen to the patterns, but not the story itself, right? Because there's always a pattern in their stories, like a relationship. I went through really crappy, mentally abusive relationships with women, because that's what I felt I deserved, and I didn't think I was going to get anything better. So I accepted their treatment of me, and then it was like 3 relationships in a row, and then finally the last one was like 6 months, and I'm like, I can't do this, and I ended it completely. Where before it was like, I'm like, oh, this is the, self-esteem was like, oh, this is the best I'm gonna get. So, I'm a single dad of 4 kids. Who else is gonna want me? And that type of thing. Because that was put in my head by family. Right?
So crazy, yeah.
So when I do a screening with clients, it's like, okay, and I always put this in perspective. I'm like, do you accept all the consequences from every choice you've ever made and realize that it's led you to exactly where you are today? Do you take responsibility? Do you accept the fact that your choices led you where you are today? Do you accept the
Powerful.
fact that the consequences of those choices is what made you who you are right now? And if they say no,
Yes.
then I won't take them as a client, because then they're not ready to change. They're not willing to kind of sit back and realize, I made some pretty crappy choices.
Yeah.
But the thing is too, they also have to understand, sometimes they took the easy choice. There's always two choices, no matter what. No matter how thin you slice, there's always minimum two choices.
Yeah.
And people always, not always, most people take the easy choice because, you know, it's easy, but then they spin their wheels and end up staying in place. The harder choice, there's a quote that I like. It's, if you want an easy life, you have to make the hard choices. But if you make the easy choices, you can have a hard life.
It's so true.
Right?
Yeah.
So I've been
Yeah.
learning to make harder choices, harder choices. So
And I think even to change that, because change the wording in that, I would, as you said it, I felt it, harder implies harder.
yeah,
But if you practice something, you're a muscle man, you know, if you keep working on something, eventually that becomes and that muscle grows. So it's not so hard anymore. 5-pound weight compared to a 50-pound weight feels so different because you keep, you know, doing the reps. It becomes easier.
yeah,
But it comes up more, maybe more conscious, more aware choices than just to make a random respond choices, you know?
yeah.
So I do see that.
So with the
Go
with
ahead,
the
you're gonna say
with
something.
with NLP and stuff in language, right? So when somebody tells me it's hard, right? I use the word hard for that quote because that was the quote. But when somebody says it's
Yes.
hard, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
well, every time you say it's hard, what do you think of when you think of the word hard? And for me, I think of like a rock wall, brick, concrete. That, to me, that is hard, right? So
Right.
change the wording a little bit, and you know, instead of it's hard, it's challenging, because challenging creates
Yeah.
growth. Challenging, so lifting a weight is not hard, it's challenging, right?
Right.
Walking through mud is not hard, it's challenging. You can get through it, but trying to walk through a brick wall, now you
Oh,
can't, because it's hard. You can't get through that.
right.
So changing the words a little
Yeah.
bit, and the same thing with everything in your life. If you just change the words just a little bit, it changes the way you look at things. So another quote I love by Dr. Wayne Dyer
Mm-hmm.
is, if you change the way you look at things, what you look at change, right? So it's like,
Yes.
um, no matter what, if you think something is hard, it's going to be hard. So I'll go back to my personal training days, and if I was to pass a client a set of dumbbells, they would, first thing they'd look at it, see how much weight it is. I'm like, don't do that. Well, it's
Yeah.
heavy. I'm like, well, now you just made it heavy, right?
Yeah.
Don't look
Because
at
you
it, just lift it.
observe it.
So sometimes if it was a machine where I could select the weight with the pin, I'd make sure they weren't
Yeah.
looking, and I would increase the weight. And then they'd start doing the workout and not realize that I made it heavier. Because if they
Yes.
looked at it, their mind would say, oh, that's heavy. And they go lift it, and they'd feel heavy because they told themselves it was heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many times that happens with so many different things in our lives too? We look at something. I've paralyzed myself for the very first time I remember I did that. I was I don't even think I was a teen yet. I don't remember, but I must have been anywhere from 12 to like 14. My mom takes us to this big mall in Miami, and we were to go down the escalators. And I don't know why I would keep vision like I was gonna trip and then my shoelace was gonna I was gonna fall down. And I've always been a tall girl, so I was like, oh my gosh, you're always scared of like if I fall, it's not just right there, I'm going
Yeah.
down. I paralyzed myself. My mom was like, we're not leaving from this mall until you get on this escalator. So like I would literally go and just like, okay, 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 okay. And then back up. I mean, we were there about for an hour. I had to keep excusing so people can go by until I finally stepped on the damn escalator and it was like nothing, as you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've done that so many times to go on lives at first. When I was first started doing lives, I was selling jewelry, and I still do. I was selling jewelry, and I would sit in front of the camera and breathe like 10 minutes. And no, I'll do it tomorrow. It's okay. I like paralyzed myself. And then once I got into the like, okay, just like be myself and just talk to whoever I'm talking to, it became so much easier. And now it's just like, it's not a big deal, you know, to get on the camera. But it's funny how we paralyze ourselves with the thoughts It's sometimes it's not even true over and over and over again. So tapping into that, a lot of times what I find when I get into those thoughts is to try to figure out where in my subconscious was that first placed in me, So like there's a lot of going back and going back, and it's not always in the very first time you do a meditation or try to go back, you find the answer. It's like a dedicated work on yourself that you have to do. You set a routine, you set a timing so that you can really go within yourself. And I think that's where I do see where coaches can be a positive thing, when people need help and they're stuck and they don't know what to do next, to find someone who has done it, who has some experience to help you figure out what's going to work for you. Because ultimately our work is to point people back to themselves, at least I believe, so that they become their own coaches and masters to themselves.
Yeah.
All right.
And I think sometimes people just need to have somebody like reframe their words or their thoughts. Like
So
like
important.
when somebody says something to me, and then I catch people all the time when they say something, and I'm like, and they'll make a point of something, and I'm like, oh, except for when you do this, and they're like,
It is shadow work.
yeah, right.
One of my friends just said this, that sounds like shadow work, and that is to me what shadow work is. So like this whole shadow work sounds so deep and spiritual, but really it's just hitting the points of where negativity was programmed within you and you going inside. So sometimes it's shadow work, and it can be spooky and scary because a lot of either the hurt was putting there to face that again, and to reprogram that can be difficult if you don't know. But what I found is that it's not as hard as sometimes people think it is either. I gave an example yesterday, and I have many others too. I have another one I can share today of me going back in a taking my time and doing meditation and going back. I remember hearing one time Teased, it really stuck with me because I talk about it a lot. She says to go into a meditation, and this one was for relationships, but so we started in there, and we ended up back as teenagers, and a memory popped up, and I dealt with that. And okay, and now knowing how the law of the universe attraction works, it started before that. So go back again, and I ended up back up into like a 7-year-old body where this first feeling came over me, and I dealt with this, and it was on lack. It was lack of not having. And then she said, okay, again, it comes from law. You have to go back again. I went back into like a 3-month-old baby, and hearing my mom and my dad arguing about money, the lack of, her worrying about the bills, him saying, it's okay, we're going to work it out. And then even one time, it's going to sound so crazy, but I even went back into like DNA cells, feeling what my mom was feeling when she was pregnant, and even from my dad's sperm, because he had feelings and stuff going on, and they're both of where they were, the vibration that came to make me, and what I was embedded with lack and doubt and unworthiness. I seen pictures of my great grandmother, and it hit me, and I realized, holy crap, we're doing work from even our ancestors,
Yeah.
because I could see it in my great grandmother, her lack of self-love too. Like I could see, even in my great grandfather. So we're doing this work. Like I've been saying too, I feel like we are healing ourselves. We are healing our children, and we're healing those who are to come. We're healing, and they have too. Our past has healed for us too, but now it's us to take it up to the next level and to really like do this inner work for ourselves. Because even for people who can't have kids, this is healing the future of children as well that's coming.
Yeah.
So I really believe in what we're doing.
It's all energy, right?
Yeah,
Everything
it
is
is.
energy. Everything is frequency, the law of vibration, the law of attraction, all the different laws of the universe. So if
Yeah.
and things can go back generational, like you were just mentioning, right?
Yeah.
So trauma can be passed on through, and they've done research on this where through the DNA, through years, right? Through
Yeah.
history. And speaking of that, like I don't know if you've kept up in the news recently in with the indigenous uh, residential schools. They
Oh,
found a lot, hundreds of buried children at these residential schools. from the indigenous, where they would take years ago they would take indigenous children away from their families, put them in these Catholic residential schools to assimilate them into white culture, Canadian culture, or it's extremely heartbreaking because I grew up in a community with a lot of reservations. I worked within an indigenous reserve for a couple of years teaching fitness, and a lot of I have friends that are. So when you learn that the trauma that some of these people went through is still it carries on through the generations into their children, and the same thing with other cultures, other parts of the world, other, like, nobody is it's heart-wrenching knowing that people went through this stuff and they have to continue to feel some of that energy, right? And it's like you kind of want to work through that energy. You want to work past that. You want to kind of put a stop to it so that future generations don't have to deal with it anymore, and stop it. And
I believe that we can stand in the gap for them when they can't see for themselves.
Yeah.
I believe that the people who are strong enough to know who they are, where they come from, where they're going, what they're doing here, can stand in the gap for those who are not in remembrance of who they are, do not remember their power, because they also serve their purpose. So sometimes I reach out to people, or they reach out to me for help, and you can see where the blockage is, right? Because I always say it's easier to be on the outside looking at somebody else's story to feel, because when you're in that vibration, you're stuck. So it's easier. So when you can see where it is, and they reach out to you and you say, okay, this is what the work is. We're going to do this, or whatever you feel intuitively led to help them with, whatever tool you use. And they're almost addicted to telling the same story over and over. Like, they want the healing, but a part of them is so used to telling this story over and over, they kind of don't know how to. And sometimes, frankly, some of them don't really want to. They just want to explain to you and just let you know what's going on. They're really not looking for change. What I've realized, because I used to get frustrated in thinking, why'd you reach out to me? Or why are you looking for help? Or why are you venting to my ears who are open to help? I don't want to just hear your shit.
I have there's a reason for that, right?
Hold on, wait. I want you to remember what you're gonna say, because I forget quickly. I'm just gonna tell you this part really quick. That's probably not a good affirmation, and so what I realize is that they serve their purpose. Those people serve their purpose, and we can stand in the gap for them, because if there's no darkness, we wouldn't know what light was. If there was no people who are asleep, we wouldn't know what the hell awake meant, right? We wouldn't know what awareness is. So once it comes to a point where I try to help, and I say, okay, that person was here for that purpose, and I love you, and I bless you, goodbye.
Yeah.
Or stay right there.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
So
yeah, go ahead.
So I'll say there's another quote that I love is, nothing is neither good nor bad, but thinking makes it so. I love that quote. But people are attracted to you for your energy, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes when somebody is attracted to you, it's because they want your energy, and sometimes people attracted to you or you're connected with have a similar energy, and sometimes it takes a little bit to know the difference. But when you realize, okay, that they're draining me, that means that they want your energy. But if they're adding to you, you know that you're on a similar frequency, and you're right.
Yes.
So that's where it's like you have to put up the boundaries of, okay, I can't give you any more of my energy anymore. And that's what there's a poem called "A Reason, a Season, a Lifetime" that I love. Somebody introduced.
I don't even know the poem, but I love that already. Go ahead.
So somebody,
I say that all the time.
I was a personal trainer at Bally's in Toronto 20 years ago, Toronto, Ontario, and this gentleman, he was a youth pastor, traveling youth pastor. I think he started in California, and he worked his way all the way up to Toronto, Ontario. And for some reason, every morning he'd be there at 6 a.m. when I was there, and he'd always talk to me, and he always gave me these little words of wisdom. I was like 20 or something. And that was one of the things he said, go find this, here, look this up. And ever since then, it's always been something that I use, because it's really, people come into your life for a reason. And that was exactly what that person's reason was, like to show you something,
Yeah.
right? And then there's
Yeah.
the season, which is somebody could be in your life for a short time, like a summer or a couple
Yeah.
months, and enough to teach
Yeah.
you something, or you to teach them something, or you teach each other something. Then there's lifetime people where it's like everything you've learned in a lifetime you can take out with you. And look up the poem. It's an amazing poem, and it really
Who is the poem by again?
I don't know who it's by.
Oh.
But if you Google a reason, a season, a lifetime, it'll come up. And make sure you look
Okay.
at the long version, because there's a short version which is a quote, like in a
Yeah.
quote form, but then there's a longer version.
But I agree with that too. Anyways, I've always actually what helped me realize that was a Medea play.
Oh,
I was going through a really hard relationship in my late 20s, and that play came on, and there was a part of that where Medea's character said, honey, people come into your life only for sometimes for a season, and where you trip up and hurt yourself is trying to keep them there permanently. That shit hit me in my heart. I was able to like slowly start realizing I'm forcing to try to keep this relationship going, and I was hurting myself. And then and that's what one of the things I was able to use to let me go. So a reason, a season, and sometimes, you know, for a lesson.
yeah.
Reason, season, or
Reason,
I think
season,
that's
lifetime.
lifetime. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's another quote. I'm going to try to find it here that I just see if I don't know if I sent it.
I Ching comes to mind, called the Book of Changes. I love the I Ching. My friend Ronnie just says that. Curry said he experiences those things too. And Vivian says, no, that does not. Oh, that was me. Doesn't sound crazy. I know. I think it's amazing. Again, one of the things I'm realizing too is that just like this quote that we just, how I heard it, how you heard it, how it impacted you. It didn't matter. It's the same lesson though we got.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It didn't matter how it came and how it sounded. It was the same, excuse me, lesson that we both experienced.
Yeah.
It was the same the way that we both, and I love how that works in the universe. We have so much connectedness in our story, and I'm sorry, in our experience and our feelings of overall what we're going through. And it might be different stories of how it plays out that way, but there's this connectedness with all of us, you know what I mean, with our experiences, that you know what a heartbreak feels like, and we can identify with that. You know what a single dad feels like struggling. Well, I can identify as a single mom what that feels like. But you know what I mean? So we identify, even though our storylines might be different, we know the overall feelings of this experience that we're going through in life. And so I think it's beautiful too when we do find people who we connect with and help inspire each other, because that's my intentions in doing these lives too, was to bring people who in all walks of life, I don't care what it is you do, profession that you do, and how you feel passionate to help other people. There's something in your story that connects with somebody that can hear and says, dang, that's how, okay, like, you know, for instance, that's what he did. Before even paying for coaching or anything like that, they should be able, I feel like we should be able to help people out there just by sharing our stories. And then if they want to go deeper and work in deeper and learn more, then they reach out to the coaches, whoever and what profession that they're in, to go a little bit deeper into the work. First of all, I realized that even for someone to reach out to you, they must be in a space of wanting to change something.
Yeah.
They have to, and one of the things I like that you said is that in order for them to be a client for you, they have to already be in the space of accepting responsibility for where they are.
Yeah.
That's huge. That is huge. A lot of people wants to put blame or victim, again, not realizing the programming that they've been programmed with. They're still playing it over and over and over. One of the ways, really quick, I would like to suggest to anybody, if you find yourself in that situation where you're playing something over and over and over again, is to stop it. Go into meditation. That is the easiest, quickest way into stopping a thought. I think last night I was talking with James. He said the only time when you sleep, right? We know about that. When we sleep, our mind shuts off. It's the only time our mind shuts off, or during meditation whilst you're up. And our mind is always playing. So if you want to reprogram, if you have a record player that's playing, you need to slow it down, stop it, and then take the tune or put it to a different song. And in order to do that, I would say meditation is my number one tool I love to recommend to people to go to first. Once you slow it down, you can figure out which song you want to place it on, where you want to place your frequency. And then maybe if you don't know how to move that, is to find a coach or someone who knows how to do that, who has done that before. Reach out to them to see if they have the tools to help you pick that up and put it on the frequency that you want it to be on.
Yeah, and I do that a lot with hypnosis with clients, NLP stuff. I do guided meditation as well. I used to do that with clients. So it's, and one of the tricks I use, because I used to be a chronic overthinker. Like I was always in my head.
Oh.
Like
I know what
I
that's.
didn't. I'm naturally an introvert, so for like half my life, I didn't really speak to people. Like, and even up till I was like 20 years old, I was still just an observer of people. I never felt like I fit in anywhere. I always felt like I was born in the wrong era, and I just like just didn't really fit, right? And I always felt like every experience I've went through in life, even though I'd be down and out for a bit, I'd always climb back up. But I always like reframe it to like, I went through this because I know, so I'm not a religious person, but I'm a spiritual person. But there's a quote that I love, which is, you know, God only gives you what he thinks you can handle, right? So I'm like, okay, so if I'm getting this stuff because I know I can handle it. It's not fun, but I can handle it over somebody else in my family having to deal with it,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
so it's falling on me because I can work through it. But
yeah.
also I look at it as like, okay, this is a way, this is going to be a part of my toolbox to help other people. I'm going to get through this so I can help other people. It became, and every, unfortunately, I went through more than I thought I would ever go through in life, but each one in every aspect has made me probably one of the most well-rounded life coaches, because I've done so many different types of work, but I've met so many people from all walks of life, and I've experienced almost anything that a man can experience, from, you know, from childhood to adulthood, from, you know, being bullied and teased as a child, to a severe accident that created PTSD, to, you know, going through custody stuff where the, you know, child services were involved because my ex was on drugs, like all this stuff, right? And then
Yeah.
also you know, dealing with a bankruptcy, dealing with like so many things,
All the
and depression, suicide thoughts, and like I could just go on, but to me it's like, okay, these are all tools I can help other people, but sometimes it gets tiring. I'll share a video with you that I recorded of myself about a month ago.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you, but it was this internal dialogue that I was playing. But I decided, okay, I'm going to do a video. I'm just going to say what's on my mind. And I didn't even know it was going to come out. And it just flowed, and the tears flowed, and it was just very intense. You'll see when I send it to you. But after that, it was like a release. So when it comes to the thoughts that keep playing in your mind, a technique that I use is, because you have 50, 60, 70,000 thoughts a day, 90% of them are repetitive, and 90% of them are lies. They're not even true. They're, you know, they're just things. And you are not your thought. So you take that thought, put it in a cloud, let it float on by. And every time that thought comes up, take it out, put it in the cloud, let it float on by. And repeat that. Eventually, it'll be so easy. Just take it out, wrap it up, throw it away.
Yeah.
So it's a form of almost like
I have a lady that I did an interview too. She said when those thoughts came to her, I forgot what she called it, but she would say, hold it. She would hold it, says, hold on, I'll deal with that later, and just put it, I'll deal with that later. Like, and I know at some point there was a a way, a process of how she dealt with that later. But sometimes when those thoughts are so going, like you said, it's like to put it on something, like it's kind of like slow it down for right now, not keep it on that, because I have caught myself, and I'm like, I know this is destructive. I need to stop. How do I stop this shit? And I will yell out to God, help me, source, help me, angels, whoever, whatever is around to help me stop this. And most of the times I will go to meditation, even if it's a 6-minute or 3-minute meditation, put on something and time it. What has helped me a lot too was when I was working in the office and doing not telemarketing, but working in a not a cubby either, but you know what I mean. It was a, oh, what is that word called? We're all on the phones, and so we would have to be next to each other sometimes, and so that's a lot of energy to deal with. And so I would have my crystals and stuff there with me, but what I practice, and that helped me a lot, because I know people who channel have to be able to quiet themselves down, and sometimes hundreds of thousands of people is in front of them. And so what I started doing was right there, I would start taking deep breath, and I would find myself going into the meditative state awake. And I would do, just keep the deep breath. So I was bringing in this piece of, even all these people around me. It became almost like a challenge every day to see how can I quiet my mind amongst all these people and pull in and hone in on my own energy to myself. And it was fun. I learned how to do it.
That's
And I can still do it now.
that's awesome. That's a great
Yeah,
technique to learn.
it is. It has been super helpful being around people. And sometimes even in my home, where this kid is asking for this attention, I have this to figure out for this life, my job, this, to just hone in and bring back my peace and say, okay, let me just deal with what I can right now. I'll do the rest later. It's so helpful to me too. So, okay, I know we can continue talking forever and ever. I'm enjoying the conversation very much. I want you to tell people, if they're looking for, a coach, like what type of people would be reaching out to you, and how can they reach out to you?
So I like to work with people that want to be worked with. That's plain and simple.
Makes sense.
If they have a strong desire to want to change, then reach out. And so for me, it's Facebook or Instagram are the best places. Just add me on Facebook or message me on Facebook or add me on Instagram.
If you put your Instagram link on the comments under here, people can already reach you on your name. They can hit your name and go straight to your page and leave a message. If you leave your Instagram link in the comments, that'd be awesome, so people can follow you on Instagram. I'll also put that link, if you leave it on here, on the YouTube video. So when I upload it, people wants to reach out to you, that way they can reach out to you also. Again, like you said, most of the time, if someone is looking for your help, they have to be in the space of wanting your help, correct?
Yeah. So basically, if I just put in, like, it's at Billy Merrylees for my Instagram, it's easy to find. But if somebody, so if they need help with their mindset on weight loss, is a big one. On eating is huge, because like I went through my eating disorder was a binge eating disorder, and it's like an addiction. Eating disorders are the same as any addiction, and it takes a lot of work. It's something that never truly goes away. Anybody that has pain, I've had, because of this arm, like you can't really see you can see that scar, and then the other scars are covered up mostly with my tattoo, but chronic pain from my whole arm for 30 years, but I can mentally block it out, and I learned how to do that at 14 years old. I didn't realize I was doing, Dr. Joe Dispenza's type work when I was 14, because I didn't know about him till like 10 years ago. But so anybody with pain, weight management, eating, somebody that's going through custody, divorce, stuff like that are having a hard time managing their emotions. When I was going through court, I was in college for a program, and I still got a 4.0 GPA. I won the President Gold Medal Award for that graduating year, which is the highest honor, and I also won the Dean's Academic Excellence Award. all while I was going through court for custody, because that was what kept me going. Just I needed,
Yeah.
right? So it's all about, and it's not easy. It's not easy, because if it was, everybody would have a perfect life, right? Like you were saying,
Yeah.
if you didn't have the dark, you wouldn't know what the light and
Yeah.
stuff. And I still have my days where I just don't know what to do.
I'll tell you, I what I've learned, and to be easy on myself with that, when I have my days, I let myself have them, because back in the day I would have weeks and months.
Yeah.
And I remember going to the conference and watching, it's particularly Wayne Dyer on stage, and I was just like, my heart was overflowed with love, because I listened to my mom listen to this man when I was younger. How I ended up at this conference was just pure total sourceness, and its amazingness got me there. And so I was sitting there watching him, and just my heart was bubbled over with so much joy. And I was like, I wonder if they get depressed. Do they get sad? Because like I can't ever imagine being in such company all the time that I would ever feel sad or depressed. I'd be living a happy life for the rest of my life. And my friend said, no, I think they probably do. I think that their refraction time might be shorter than ours. And so when we have our days, I'm so much more grateful sometimes compared to 2 or 3 months, like I said, or 2 or 3 weeks where I would be down. I also realized that same concept with realizing light from dark. You wouldn't know how really good feels if you didn't once in a while go down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like so, and so I allow myself to have those days. It's when we get stuck in those moments where we don't know, is when it's good to reach out to someone and says, hey, I'm down here and I cannot figure out how the hell to get back up. I need your help.
Exactly. Like our whole conversation, I've had goosebumps pretty much the whole time, because to me, that's my intuition. It's a true sign of something good, our interaction here. And what you're just saying there is exactly like what I tell my clients, is like, it's okay to feel those feelings, just don't live in it. Feel it, absorb it, like feel it and recognize it, notice it, and then let it go. Right?
Yes.
And like you said, if you don't know what happiness is without sadness, right? If you don't know what joy is without a little bit of despair, right? You don't.
Yeah.
It's like if you lived in a utopian world, there's still going to end up being corruption, because
you wouldn't even know, because what is utopian? You're living, it's an all, you know. So yeah, it is. It's a crazy dichotomy that we live in, but here we are.
Doing the best we can.
Billy, thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything else that you want to leave, a word or?
The thing that I've learned, I'll be 45 next Monday, and the thing that I've learned, thank you. The thing that I've learned is everything in life happens for a reason, and I've always said this for like since I was probably 17, I think 16 maybe. It's just learning and looking at a situation, be like, okay, why is this happening? So if you need to ask yourself better questions, you'll get better answers. That's what Tony Robbins always says.
Oh, I love, yeah.
And it's like, and I've gone to see him twice. I did the Fire Walk. I went to Date with Destiny, like amazing. And this was like 20 years ago. So it's like, ask yourself better questions. You'll get better answers.
Yes.
So I'm gonna leave with that.
Yeah. All right, I like that. Ronnie says to remind yourself that this too shall pass. Wonderful to hear, and realizing cycle speeding up. Yep.
Oh,
so
I love that. There's one more thing.
No, don't, go ahead, say it.
So there's a parable where this king, he had his prophet write a note on his on a scroll, and he said, when you feel like there's nothing left to do, read it. And so he was in war, and he's at the bridge, or at a cliff, and the army was coming, and he read it, and it was oh no, it just slipped my mind what it said, but it was something like, this too shall pass. I think that's what it was. And then he just waited, and then they end up going a different direction. So he got back, and they won the war, and he's celebrating. And the prophet said, read your note again, and because he was happy and excited, and this too shall pass.
Yeah,
like having such the time of his life, and exciting and partying, and it's like, you know, all these moments
Both.
pass, whether they're
Yeah.
good or bad.
Yeah.
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 That's what it was.
Yeah. I love that. That's a great way to end it. Thank you
Yeah.
again so much for coming to share with us. Don't forget to leave your link so people can reach you. I know they can already tag your name up on the top right there, find you on your inbox or message you, however. But thank you so much for sharing
Thank you for
your
having me
love and
on.
your vibration with us. Yeah. It's open to you. If you have anything else that you want to plug and you want to come back on, it's open to you. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. You have a blessed night. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, you too.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you again so much. That was so much fun. It was my first time talking with you, Billy, and it was amazing. Like I always don't know what to expect, but knowing that every time I've ended a live, I've always ended on such a high vibration. I knew that was going to happen today, and it did. So thank you. Thank you guys for who watched. Who is going to watch later, you can hashtag replay. That way it brings up the video and somebody else can get a message or inspiration from it like we did. You guys, Billy is going to leave his contact information if you would like to know more about how he can help you or other people that you know might benefit from his type of coaching or training and helping. You can point them that way too. You guys have a blessed evening. Join me tomorrow. I have 2 more guests all week. All week we're going. So thank you so much for joining me.